Hello, everybody. This is Juan Enrique Toro with you again on this section called Call to Consciousness. Today we're reviewing the idea of the wounded spirit. Now, I know that we have a basic belief that our spirit is eternal and unchanging. In truth, it can never be wounded. But we come from a perception that sometimes we feel downhearted. We feel weary. We feel out of balance, out of sorts. We might complain that we feel that our spirit has been crushed. And so today I want to address what to do about that. How can we address that very important issue in our lives? As we begin, we remember that the Apostle Paul went out, established many ministries, and would help the ministries to remember their truths when they were falling into difficulty by writing them letters. Those letters ended up becoming books in the Bible. In one such letter, Paul was writing to the Ephesians, and in typical Paul style, he was addressing some of the problems that they were having within the church. But instead of dealing with the smaller issue, Paul did a prayer that I believe speaks to the consciousness he was trying to establish within those churches. And he said this letter in the letter to the Ephesians. He said, "I pray that according to the riches of his glory, that he may grant that you may be strengthened in your inner being with power through his Spirit, and that the Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, and that you are being rooted and grounded in love. I pray that you may have the power to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with the fullness of God." And so the Apostle Paul is helping us understand that what's most important is the strength in spirit. And so let us address this idea of the wounded spirit from four different perspectives: the idea of priority, complexity, solitude, and the path to healing. First of all, the priority. Where do we put the importance of strengthening our soul in our life? How much importance do we give it when the time comes when we're feeling a little bit out of sort? We need to know and remember that it is, first and foremost, our first priority. More often than not, we place our happiness on external circumstances, only to be frustrated and disheartened when those circumstances fall apart. And so when we strengthen the inner spirit, we're strengthening the rest of our being. Indeed, we know that if we strengthen our spirit, it can sustain a broken body. But the other way around, if our spirit is weak, no strong body can sustain us. And so the priority becomes absolutely number one. We might ask ourselves the question, are we more concerned about depositing grace in our spirit than depositing money in our bank account? That may help us understand where our priorities come. If we are spirit, then we need to deposit grace in our spirit to strengthen it, and all else will come with that. Regarding complexity, too often we reduce our problems to a simple solution. Change your diet, look at your emotions, look at your thinking, do your Thanksgiving list. We're complex beings, and we come at different things from different ways. So yes, it's important that the body temple be healthy. When we're sick, when we're weary, when we're out of balance chemically, when we're not eating well or sleeping well, it's hard to keep a strong spirit, so we attend to the body. We attend to the emotions. Sometimes what we need is a hug, or a listening ear, or a shoulder to cry on. Or we just need to be with someone that can give us a smile and tell us that everything's going to be okay. Sometimes it's deeper than that. Maybe it calls for therapy. Maybe it calls for spiritual treatment. But let's be aware that we are complex beings. Sometimes we look at our very existential questions that need to be addressed. Sometimes it's a faith issue. But we are complex beings. And so we need to address our needs from many different perspectives, from a holistic perspective in truth. Solitude. We need to remember that we are born alone, and ultimately we die alone. And what's true about our life is, even though we may have some great connections and wonderful understanding with people, that in truth nobody can ever really truly understand us. And when we come into that realization, we can feel very alone indeed. And so in dealing with the wounded heart and the wounded spirit, we need to remember that cultivating an inner presence, a healthy inner spirit, will give us the realization that we are not just one human being, one personality, but the truth of our being is transcendent and truly connects with all of life. That sense of solitude, that sense of aloneness can be healed and quieted when we connect with God and with everything that is. And so this is a very important part of our healing the wounded spirit, knowing we're not alone, recognizing the complexity of our being, and putting spirit first, most essentially. What are we talking about? We're talking about that the longings of our life are pointing, are signaling towards an ultimate healing of our soul. And we need to pursue those. Our relationships, our career, we want to learn something, we want to do something specifically, we have a dream, and all of that is good, probably based on outer circumstances. But what's true is that's not the end game, that's not the goal. The goal is beyond that. We need to allow our longings to point towards something of a deeper expression of who and what we are. Indeed, our longing is pointing to the ultimate reunion and oneness with God, the experience of knowing God not as an abstract reality, but as a present truth that's in our heart, that we feel, that we vibrate with. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote a poem in which he spoke to this. It's called Going to the Limits of Your Longing, and we'll post this on the Unity Fredericksburg Facebook page for you to check it out. It said, God speaks to each of us as he makes us, then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You, sent out beyond your recall, go to the limits of your longing. Embody me, flare up like a flame, and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by your seriousness. Give me your hand. Rilke here is reminding us to go to the limits of our longing, to put our hand in the hand of God and walk through the valley of the shadow of death, fearing no evil, because we know that the presence and power of God is expressing in and through us as the full reality of who we are. And that, my friends, will help heal a wounded spirit. I'll remind you to check out the full message on the Unity of Facebook, Unity of Fredericksburg website. That's uofva.org. Check out the full message there. And for now, the call to consciousness is allow the full Spirit of the Christ to express in and through you. God bless you. Have a great day.